In this video, I'm going to be teaching you all about a new way of thinking about periodization and convince you as to why you should leave the old way in the past. My name is Dr. Joe Camerato. I'm with Across The Continuum, and it's my goal to make you a better strength coach as a physical therapist. Periodization historically has come from a top-down prediction approach. Basically, the coach writes a 4, 8, 12-week program in what he thinks or she thinks is going to be the best program to elicit a goal over time. Basically saying this is the path that you're going to follow with this program over these 2, 3, 4 months. Anyone who has done one of these programs knows that they don't go as smoothly as you anticipate from the beginning or as the coach would hope over the 1, 2, 3 months that they are laying out this program for. If you want things to go smoothly on your journey to becoming a strength-forward physical therapist, make sure to subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any information. Let's look at the background of periodization theory and why we need to make some changes and embrace the future. The first thing that we're going to talk about is called General Adaptation Syndrome, or G.A.S. Now, this was coined by a scientist called Hans Selye way back in the day, and basically it was his best attempt to predict how rats were going to respond to stressors applied to them. He would basically torture these rats, exposing them to starvation, very low temperatures, and categorize and see what their response to those stressors were. Out of these exposures to these stressors came a 3-phase response category. Number 1 is the alarm phase, number 2 is the response phase, and then number 3 is the exhaustion phase. What Hans ended up pulling from these studies was that there is a repeatable and predictable process that happens when you apply stressors to a biologic organism. Not only that, but the reactions come from purely a biologic standpoint or a biologic source. This partly explains why periodization is the way it is right now with coaches and physical therapists alike, assuming that they can predict the responses that come from the periodized program that they're writing or the stressors that they're applying to their patients and athletes. We apply a stressor, out comes a response, out comes an adaptation, and we can repeat this ad nauseum or until the end of time. And things are very nice and neat in this way of understanding stressor application. The problem is that when the rubber meets the road, predictions normally fall short and it is anything but neat. Now, the idea that the body is a machine and will react to a set of rules nice and neatly is nothing new. We see this in things like corrective exercise, in manual therapy, or our best attempts at fixing a part of the body and hoping that the sum will feel better or will respond to that fixing of the part. But more often than not, the parts themselves don't have a whole lot to do with the specific reason that the sum is not feeling great. When we realize that the body is not a machine is when we start to shake the misunderstandings of the past in the medical world. When we start to talk about leaving the past behind for the future, we need to start to talk about something called allostasis. Now, I know that I just said prediction doesn't really work when it comes to the human organism, but that's when we're trying to predict something externally. When we talk about allostasis, we're talking about predictions internally or predictions that the cognitive state or the human is going through internally. When we look at allostasis, it's basically centered around how the body gets ready for or prepares for a certain stress before it happens. In the paper Periodization Theory, Confronting an Inconvenient Truth, author John Kiley talks about allostasis. He says that allostasis takes place by anticipating needs before they arise and by mobilizing a diverse breadth of neurological, biological, and immunological accommodations to counter these emerging challenges or the context at hand. He says that rather than reacting to a stress that's being applied to the human and essentially being one step behind, that allostasis predicts what's going to happen and predicts what it needs to get ready for that stressor in the body. It makes this prediction based on context, the environment, the exposure of similar contexts in the past, and the cognitive state of the human. All this to say that the complex human response to things like a periodized program widely different, and it really can't be predicted at all. So the big question is, what do we do with this information? How do we update our periodization, and how do we update our strength coaching going forward? Now, there are a few key things to remember when trying to implement allostatic theory into periodization and coaching as well as physical therapy. Number 1, relationship and communication with your athlete are very important. Being able to pull information and feedback from that person is going to help to inform future exposures to stressors as well as future periodized plans. Only your athlete and patient hold the insight to how they're responding to those stressors, and so a robust feedback system really needs to be in place to figure out how they are responding to those stressors that you're applying to them. Number 2, an emerging strategy is important when it comes to making plans. And basically this is just taking it one step at a time rather than writing 1, 2, or 3 months of programming or plans of care in advance. And then number 3, making sure that the human that you are interacting with is bought in or likes the plan that you are implementing going forward. This is going to lessen the cognitive load, which again is going to lessen the stressors that are being applied to this person. If you can implement these 3 tactics when thinking about allostatic theory, then you are well on your way to being an amazing coach as a physical therapist. If you found this video helpful, as always, please share it with your coworkers, like it, and then comment below what I missed or what you didn't understand, and I'll be sure to try and answer those as best as I can. I'll also link the paper down in the description so that you can give it a read yourself. Lastly, if there were some things that I said about periodization, or if periodization is brand new to you, go ahead and watch my other video on periodization. Actually, I have a few of them, and I'll link those down in the description as well.